Resilience. Resilience is defined as the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties. A team who has become synonymous with this word and concept is the St. Louis Blues. Often undercovered, often underestimated, the Blues have been counted out on numerous occasions. However, their recent success has made them nearly impossible to miss. The Blues have missed the playoffs for 2 years in a row, and rather than hitting the rebuild button, this organization has instead opted to aggressively retool, believing that their core of talent is capable of greatness. Similar to 2019, the Blues have built out a roster of talented stars who complement one another's game. This gritty, fast-paced team may not be the flashiest or even the most talented on paper, but the culture and chemistry that they have built throughout the season makes all of these notions irrelevant to their brand of hockey. Since the league returned from the Four Nations face-off break, the Blues have become the hottest team in the NHL, putting themselves in a position to somehow make the playoffs even with their uncharacteristic start. So what gives? How has this team completely changed their projection, and why is this starting to feel awfully similar to one of the franchise's more memorable runs? Well, today, let's talk about the St. Louis Blues, to show you why this team is way better than you think. Alright boys, it's time to talk about the St. Louis Blues. Oh, needed that. Sorry boys, got a bit of a sore throat right now. Going through a bit of a cold, so bear with me today. But what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. This video is long overdue. Today we're going to talk about the St. Louis Blues. But before we talk about the Blues, I have a question for you. If I were to ask you which wildcard race would have been more competitive to begin the year, which one would you have said? The East or the West? And I'll give you a second to think about it. Yeah, you would have said the East. The East was just more competitive on paper, but right now the West has gotten a little bit heated with the Vancouver Canucks, Calgary Flames, St. Louis Blues, and Utah Hockey Club being in the mix for that final wildcard 2 spot. But the Blues right now, not only are they in the race for the wildcard 2, they might just take over the Minnesota Wild for that wildcard 1 spot. So how did the Blues turn their season around, and what has changed to make this team a legitimate contender after being one of the worst teams in hockey this year to begin the season? Well, maybe not the worst, but definitely a below average one. Well, today, let's talk about the St. Louis Blues to help you guys understand why this team is so good right now and how they turned their year around. At the time of this recording, the Blues have won 10 games in a row and are the hottest team in the NHL. And what's crazy about this is that they're not even scratching the surface of their potential, but we'll get into that a bit later in this video. In an interview done with the New York Times, general manager Doug Armstrong went in depth on some of his feelings around this roster. Quote, "The last 6 weeks have been a lot of fun to be a part of. We've become a really strong team in the sense of emphasis on team. We're getting really good balance from our veteran players, our younger players, from players in the middle, and that's quite honestly the way that we're going to have success today and moving forward, in a team atmosphere and a team belief." Since returning from the Four Nations break, the Blues have been getting contributions from nearly every aspect of their roster, and largely this can be attributed to the head coaching change that the Blues made earlier in the season. Going on a quick tangent, my biggest gripe as a Bruins fan this year was the firing of Jim Montgomery. Seeing how he turned Boston into a legitimate contender over 2 years was refreshing at the time, and when the team let him go, I knew that he would instantly have an impact somewhere else, which ended up being in St. Louis. Montgomery is much better suited for St. Louis anyways, with his specialty being his developmental skills and ability to reach rising stars, something that St. Louis has a plethora of. Since he joined the Blues, guys like Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, and Jake Neighbors have all seen significant improvements in their production, more specifically, improvements in their two-way game. What's so rewarding for this Blues organization is that everyone felt like this team needed a rebuild to get back into the playoffs, but they felt like a retool would help them get back into contention a little bit sooner, believing in their core players and having this idea that if they could just get a few nice pieces to surround them with, that they would be right back in the mix of things, and that's exactly what's happened. Now, 2 moves specifically that have really helped this team out are the offer sheets that they gave to Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg, 2 guys who have been massive additions to this team and have completely broken out under their new role with the Blues. Dylan Holloway, who is only 23 years old, mind you, is easily under one of the best contracts league-wide right now. 62 points in 75 games played, only earning a measly 2.2 per season this year and the next. Talk about a bargain. Philip Broberg has also been incredible, stepping up this year and becoming one of the better blue liners for St. Louis, maybe just outside of Parayko when it comes to his overall skill, but as a 23-year-old making $4.5 million this season and the next while averaging 20 minutes of ice time, I don't think anybody is complaining about his game. Doug Armstrong mentions this in his New York Times interview, stating, quote, "It was an experiment that didn't have any guarantees attached to it, and for the longest time this season, it was looking like a third straight year out of the playoffs. But then it all hit over the past 6 weeks, just in time to salvage the season." This is an important quote because the Blues being outside of a playoff bubble nearly forced them to sell at the deadline this year. Guys like Neighbors and Kyrou were being mentioned as trade bait, but since the Blues started to gain some traction, Armstrong decided to run out the rest of the season with this roster he assembled, and it's paying off big time. We've talked about Doug Armstrong quite a bit in this video, and deservedly so. If I had to pick a GM to be the best of the season, he is hands down my pick. But earlier I actually talked about something saying that the Blues haven't even reached their full potential yet despite being one of the hottest teams in hockey. And what I mean by that is that they've had some great draft years and a few prospects who are going to make this team even deeper in contention for the future. Prospects for the Blues organization have been getting better and better since their run in 2019, but the Blues have not used some of their best even during this hot streak that they've been on. Recently, we watched Dalibor Dvorsky make his NHL debut, and considering how well he's played in the AHL this season, with 20 goals and 43 points in 57 games, he alone will make this Blues team even deeper. Jimmy Snuggerud is another player with this Blues system that may be the best in the NCAA this season, with 49 points and 22 goals in 39 games played with the University of Minnesota. It won't be long until both of these guys are NHL ready and provide more depth to this Blues lineup, even with them being one of the top teams in the league right now. So combine this with the offer sheets they made acquiring two 23-year-olds from Edmonton and all of the incredible players that they have within their lineup, and you might just be witnessing a team that could be competitive for years to come. Not to mention a team that will be very attractive as a destination for free agents because of their well-structured contracts and cap. Something that I haven't mentioned yet that is the Blues' not-so-hidden secret is their goaltending. After seeing the show that Binnington put on at Four Nations and now the numbers that he's put up since then, I think it's fair to say that 2019 Binnington isn't that far of a reach. Right now he has a .901 save percentage, 2.70 goals against average, and 25 wins, something that has been widely improved from his start to the year, and realistically will only get better in the playoffs because I'm done doubting this guy. In big game moments, he clearly steps up when it counts the most, and I expect him to do that again once the Blues are in the postseason. There's just a few more things that I want to touch upon when it comes to the St. Louis Blues and how they've turned their season around. So let's go through some of the numbers from the season, comparing them to last year to show you guys how the Blues have improved in different areas. Comparing this season to the last year the Blues finished 24th in goals for. This year they are 14th. Power play last year they were 24th. This year they're 19th. Penalty kill, this one's the worst stat for the team. They were 18th last year and 29th this year, so that definitely needs some work. Last year, they were 14th in goals against average. This year, they're 11th. And last but not least, their save percentage last year, they were 4th. And this year, they're 16th, which, like I said, won't matter too much once the playoffs start because I think Binnington usually steps up his game during the postseason. So the Blues should be fine in that category. But this is my full breakdown of the St. Louis Blues and how they turned their season around. As always, I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on the Blues this season? And if they get into the playoffs, which team would you like to see them match up against the most? Thank you guys as always for watching these videos. If you enjoyed this one, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next episode.